The plasma fire scorched the air around Marcus Chun as he limped through the burning settlement on Kepler 442b. His left leg dragged behind him, shrapnel from the surprise attack having torn through his combat suit 3 hours ago. A metallic taste of blood filled his mouth, but he pressed forward through the smoke and debris. The evacuation shuttles had already departed, leaving behind only the dead and the desperate. That's when he heard it, a sound unlike anything in his 15 years of military service. Not quite a cry, not quite a whistle, but something that pierced through the chaos and grabbed his soul. Following the sound through collapsed prefab structures, Marcus discovered a small figure huddled beneath a twisted piece of metal sheeting. At first glance, it appeared to be a human child, perhaps 6 years old, with pale skin and large, frightened eyes. But something felt different. The child's breathing was labored, and strange, iridescent patterns flickered across its skin like oil on water. Marcus had encountered enough alien species during the border conflicts to recognize biocamouflage when he saw it. This wasn't a human child at all, but something else entirely, something that had been hiding among the colonists. Without hesitation, Marcus gathered the small being into his arms. The moment their skin made contact, an electric sensation coursed through his body as if every nerve ending had suddenly awakened. The child's camouflage flickered and failed, revealing crystalline features and skin that seemed to contain tiny stars. Its large eyes, now a deep violet color, stared up at him with ancient intelligence. The ground shook as another bombardment struck nearby. Marcus clutched the alien child closer and began the arduous journey toward the emergency beacon he'd activated hours ago. Each step sent waves of agony through his wounded leg, but the child's presence seemed to dull the pain somehow. Strange whispers echoed in his mind, not words, but emotions and images of gratitude, fear, and something else he couldn't identify. As they moved through the wasteland that had once been New Haven Colony, Marcus noticed his wounds weren't bleeding as heavily. The child's skin pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light, and wherever that light touched him, the pain receded. They were connected now, in ways he couldn't begin to understand, racing against time toward an uncertain rescue. 3 days later, aboard the medical frigate Sanctuary, Marcus awakened to find himself in the biocontainment unit, surrounded by a team of xenobiologists, military officers, and one figure who made his breath catch in his throat. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with the same crystalline features as the child he'd rescued, but her presence radiated power and authority that seemed to bend the very air around her. "I am Velen of the Zephyrian Conclave," her voice resonated, directly in his mind, bypassing his ears entirely. "You carry my offspring." Dr. Sarah Voss, the mission's lead xenobiologist, stepped forward with her scanner still beeping frantically. "Mr. Chun, we need to understand what happened during your contact with the child. Your genetic markers have changed. There are new neural pathways in your brain, and your cellular regeneration rate has increased by 300%. Marcus sat up slowly, feeling stronger than he had in years. "Where is the child?" Velen's expression shifted, and for a moment he glimpsed something. That might have been maternal concern. "Kylan is in the adjacent chamber, but they cannot be separated from you by more than a few meters without experiencing severe distress. The bond you formed, it's unprecedented." Admiral Torres, a grizzled veteran with cybernetic implants, covering half his face, leaned against the wall with obvious skepticism. "What we have here is a potential diplomatic crisis. The Zephyrians weren't supposed to have any presence in this sector. The child was found among human colonists during a hegemony raid. How do we know this isn't some kind of infiltration?" "Velen's?" Crystalline features hardened. "My people do not infiltrate. Kylan was placed with the colonists for their protection when we discovered the hegemony plan to target that system. They were meant to be evacuated before the attack. Dr. Voss interrupted, her excitement barely contained. The biological changes in Mr. Chun are remarkable. His DNA is incorporating Zephyrian sequences, but not randomly. It's as if the two genetic codes are learning to work together. The child's survival instincts must have activated some kind of symbiotic protocol. Marcus felt a pull in his chest, a yearning that wasn't entirely his own. Through the biocontainment barrier, he could see into the adjacent chamber where the small figure sat motionless, their skin dim and lifeless. The moment their eyes met, both chambers filled with soft, pulsing light. "The bond deepens," Velen whispered, and Marcus heard something like wonder in her mental voice. "In 1,000 years of our recorded history, there has never been a successful symbiosis between our species and another. You've done something impossible, Marcus Chun." The Emergency Council convened in the sanctuary's primary conference room, a sterile space that felt inadequate for the magnitude of what they were discussing. Marcus sat at the center of the table, still connected to medical monitors, while Kylan remained in his lap, the only position that kept the child's vital signs stable. Velen stood at the far end, her towering presence dominating the room despite the barriers of culture and biology that separated her from the human officials. Commander Elena Vasquez, the sanctuary's captain, spoke first. "Let me understand this correctly. The child will die if separated from Mr. Chun, and Mr. Chun's biology is being fundamentally altered by their connection. What exactly are you proposing, Velen?" The Zephyrian's response rippled through the minds of everyone present, carrying undertones of emotion that human language couldn't capture. "In our culture, there exists a ritual called the Kethniran, the life bond. It has never been performed between species, but the connection that has formed naturally between Marcus and Kylan suggests it may be possible." Dr. Voss looked up from her datapad, her face pale. "The biological implications are staggering. Based on our scans, the life bond would create a permanent three-way symbiosis. All parties would share extended lifespans, enhanced healing abilities, and a form of consciousness overlap that could fundamentally change who they are as individuals." Admiral Torres slammed his fist on the table. "Absolutely not. We cannot allow a human citizen to undergo an untested alien procedure. The security implications alone. The alternative is death." Velen interrupted, her mental voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. Kylan's physiology was not designed to exist independently after such a profound bonding. In perhaps 6 days, their systems will begin to fail catastrophically. Marcus will likely follow within hours, as their life forces are now intertwined. At the quantum level, Marcus felt Kylan shift in his arms, and suddenly his mind filled with images, not his own memories, but something else entirely. He saw vast crystalline cities floating among the stars, beings of light dancing through cosmic storms, and civilizations that had risen and fallen while humanity was still learning to make fire. The child was sharing their inherited memories, their species' entire history flowing through the connection they'd formed. "There's something else," Marcus said quietly, his voice hoarse with the effort of processing alien experiences. "Kylan isn't just any Zephyrian child. They single quotes re ... special somehow. I can feel the weight of expectations, the hopes of an entire civilization." Velen's composure cracked for the first time, revealing vulnerability beneath her regal exterior. Kylan is the first of their generation, born with the ability to truly bridge different forms of consciousness. They were being prepared to serve as an ambassador to species we've never been able to communicate with directly. Your bond with them has accelerated their development in ways we never anticipated. Dr. Voss set down her scanner, her scientific objectivity warring with human concern. "If the life bond succeeds, you wouldn't just be saving 2 lives. You'd be creating something entirely new, a being that's part human, part Zephyrian, with capabilities we can't even imagine." The room fell silent as the weight of the decision settled over them all. Asterisk, asterisk. The observation deck of the sanctuary offered a view of the star field that had once seemed infinite and welcoming to Marcus. Now, as he stood with Kylan pressed against his side, those same stars felt heavy with possibility and threat. 3 days had passed since the council meeting, and the child's condition was deteriorating despite their connection. The soft, pulsing light under their skin had dimmed to a barely perceptible glow. Dr. Sarah Voss approached quietly, her medical tricorder painting them both in its blue scanning light. Kylan's cellular cohesion is at 60% and falling. We're running out of time, Marcus. Behind them, Velen materialized from the shadows with that unsettling way her people had of moving. The preparations for the Kethmiran are complete. My ship has arrived with the necessary ceremonial components and medical support. But the choice must be yours, Marcus Chun. Once begun, the life bond cannot be undone. Marcus looked down at Kylan, whose violet eyes met his with a trust that transcended species. Through their connection, he could feel the child's pain, their confusion at the betrayal of their own body, and underneath it all, a desperate love for a mother they barely remembered. "What will happen to me?" Marcus asked. "I mean, will I still be me?" Velen stepped closer, her crystalline features reflecting the starlight. "You'll become more than you are now, but also different. The bond will grant you an extended lifespan, perhaps several centuries by your measure. Your consciousness will expand to encompass experiences and knowledge that no human has ever possessed. But you will also carry the weight of our memories, our joys and our sorrows." Dr. Voss hesitated before adding, "There's another consideration. The neural mapping shows that your brain is already adapting to process Zephyrian thought patterns. With or without the life bond, you're changing. The question is whether that change will be controlled and beneficial, or chaotic and potentially destructive." Marcus felt a flutter of fear, not from himself, but from Kylan. The child was listening, understanding more than their apparent age should allow. Through their bond, he sensed ancient protocols activating survival instincts older than human. "Civilization. There's something you haven't told me," Marcus said, his voice carrying new harmonics that resonated with Zephyrian communication frequencies. "Kylan isn't just sick because of the separation anxiety. They're evolving, aren't they? Into something their people have never seen before." Velen's silence was confirmation enough. When she finally responded, her mental voice carried the weight of centuries. "My child is becoming a bridge between worlds, Marcus Chun. Not just metaphorically, but literally. Their consciousness is expanding to encompass multiple forms of sentient thought. Without the stability that the life bond would provide, that expansion will tear them apart, and you with them." Kylan suddenly gripped Marcus's hand with surprising strength, and his mind filled with images of 2 possible futures. In one, he saw himself and the child dying together, their connection severing in a cascade of neural feedback that left only emptiness. In the other, he saw something magnificent and terrifying, 3 beings united in purpose, their combined consciousness reaching across the galaxy to touch minds that had never known understanding. The choice had already been made. He realized it had been made the moment he'd first held this child in his arms. Part 5. The Bond. The Bond. Ceremony took place in the sanctuary's main cargo bay, hastily converted into something that could accommodate Zephyrian ritual requirements. Crystalline formations grown from Velen's ship created a geometric pattern on the floor, pulsing with soft, rhythmic light that seemed to synchronize with Marcus's heartbeat. The air itself felt different, charged with possibilities that made his skin tingle. Admiral Torres watched from behind protective barriers, his expression grim. "This is either the most important diplomatic moment in human history, or the biggest mistake we've ever made." Dr. Voss monitored her instruments with scientific fascination, warring against human concern. Biological readings are off the charts. The quantum entanglement between Marcus and Kylan is intensifying exponentially. Marcus knelt in the center of the crystal formation, with Kylan held gently in his arms. The child's breathing had become shallow and irregular, their skin barely maintaining its solid form. Through their fading connection, he could sense Kylan's consciousness fragmenting, trying to process experiences meant for a mind thousands of years more developed. Valen began the ritual, her voice creating harmonics that resonated through the crystalline structures and into their bones. The ancient words meant nothing to Marcus's human understanding, but their meaning flowed directly into his awareness through the bond. Let three become one while remaining three. Let the river of consciousness flow between vessels without losing its essence. Let love transcend the boundaries of flesh and thought. The change began as warmth spreading through Marcus's chest, then intensified into something that felt like being struck by lightning made of pure emotion. His consciousness expanded suddenly, violently, as Kylan's memories became his own, not just the child's brief existence, but the inherited experiences of generations. He saw the birth of stars through Zephyrian eyes, felt the weight of civilizations, rising and falling, experienced joy and sorrow in spectrums of emotion human language had no words for. But it wasn't one-directional. Through the growing connection, he felt Velen's ancient mind opening to receive human experiences, his memories of Earth's blue skies, the taste of rain, the simple comfort of human laughter, the fierce protective love he'd felt for Kylan from the moment he'd found them. The alien mother experienced human childhood, human dreams, human mortality, and wept crystalline tears at the beauty and fragility of it all. Kylan's form stabilized as the three-way bond completed, their skin regaining its healthy luminescence. But they were no longer exactly the same being they'd been before. Through their shared consciousness, Marcus felt the child's awareness expand to encompass both human intuition and Zephyrian wisdom, becoming something entirely new. "It is done," Velen whispered, and Marcus heard her voice, both aloud and in his mind. The two forms of communication now seamlessly integrated. "We are bound across the void, connected until the last stars fade." Marcus stood slowly, Kylan now capable of standing independently, but choosing to remain close. He could feel both of his bondmates as extensions of himself, Valen's ancient strength and Kylan's infinite potential for growth. But he was still himself, still human at his core, just expanded beyond the limitations he'd never known. He carried. Dr. Voss's scanners showed readings that would revolutionize xenobiology textbooks. The integration is perfect. Three distinct individuals sharing enhanced capabilities while maintaining their core identities. It's impossible, but it's happening. Through their bond, Marcus felt Velen's amusement at the human need to categorize the miraculous. But he also sensed her deep gratitude, and something that might have been love, not romantic, but the profound connection between beings who had chosen to risk everything for each other. Kylan looked up at both their parents, for that's what they were now, in ways that transcended biology and spoke their first words since the bonding. "We can hear the stars singing. Want to listen?" And as their combined consciousness reached out into the cosmos, Marcus realized that saving one small child had not just created a family. It had birthed the first step toward a galaxy where understanding could flow as freely as starlight between any beings willing to open their hearts to the impossible. Asterisk.